Hello, welcome to, this is our, I want to say first, but technically it's not.
It's our second.
Our second podcast, video, whatever it is that we want to call it, that we're actually doing about, trying to be the voice for
Your dog.
And we think, Ask, which is Ashley, Simone and Colleen. Okay. So we actually just thought, because in our first video we spoke about something that we think is probably going to be a little bit controversial.
We did.
And I started out by saying, as trainers, we do train in the realm of positive reinforcement, which is technically correct.
We do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that is the majority of what we do. But sometimes we go out of the realm of that, and we may go into what is commonly known as LIMA, least intrusive, minimally aversive. And then Simone said,
Maximally Positive Least Intrusive.
So,
Yes.
we should probably
Elaborate.
maybe have have a little bit of a chat about, why we choose what we choose, considering, again, especially because we're both crossover trainers. This one's younger than us, obviously.
I've used a prong collar before.
You shouldn't have been in that old school
I shouldn't have
way
been,
of
but
doing
I was
stuff.
told to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you were told to do that.
I was told to do that by an old school trainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of those around.
And I can still see what that's done to my dog. Do you know? It's
Never goes away, does it?
No, it doesn't. No, it's terrible. So.
And your memories don't go away when you realise that there's a better way of doing something, a kinder way of doing something that honours your dog as a living species, something that has feelings, thoughts,
emotions.
Emotions,
Lots
all of
needs.
that.
Has the right to consent is a huge one.
Yeah.
If there's a reason your dog's not doing something or is doing something, that's all communication. You're not quashing it, punishing it.
To give it the freedom of choice. Do you know if you want to video something, you should always have it on landscape? Just saying.
Why? I'm actually not videoing. I'm just doing it to intimidate her.
What's probably working?
I have a second thing set up. What is that going to do? Whoa, trippy.
Digression number one.
We did it. We got there. Woo!
Okay, so let's elaborate a little bit more on, obviously positive reinforcement. We run puppy kitty classes every weekend, and we want to be teaching owners the nicest way, a way that doesn't involve them having to physically manipulate their dog to do something. We'd like to teach them to know how to move their dog by just giving a simple command like the touch. Instead of, manhandling them, picking them up, putting them here, moving them around, pushing them about. There's so much nicer, more appropriate ways that dogs would be more happier to tolerate. And when we're physical, like you said it before, it's about canine consent.
Yeah.
We want them to love us. We want them to want to come to us and engage with us. And unfortunately, I see all too often that when people are very physical and very hands-on with their puppies, then in fact they actually get the exact opposite of what it is that they want. And because us humans are what? So tactile.
Too tactile.
I think when it comes to our animals sometimes, not appropriate enough.
It's about working with the animal, like positive reinforcement, and it teaches owners the skill of, instead of forcing your dog to do something, let's work together with them as a team and working, I don't know, I think it's more of a partnership than than an ownership, because owning a dog is like your dog must be under control according to law, which is where a lot of it stems from, I think. But that dogs are our servants. They're not. They're our companions.
I think when we're less physical, at least where I come from with this comment is about the proprioception and the body work that I do, and I see it all the time. When we do this, it is about letting your dog have the choice to say no. When we're physical, we're not giving that animal a choice. We're not giving that dog a voice, an opportunity to say no. I actually don't want to do that. And the cool thing is in the proprioception work that we do, we're constantly giving the dog choice, and the things that then happen, how the dog evolves in its confidence and the work that it does and the willingness to do stuff just absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, when they realise that they can say no, and that they can take themselves out of a situation or something.
What power.
Yeah, and you always see that really hits home to me when I'm working with a fearful animal, and whether that's a horse or whether it's a dog. is giving them the first time they work out and they go, oh, you didn't stop me from retreating.
Yeah.
And then their bounce back is almost like, oh, I'm going to try this again, and they actually try further than what they did where they previously retreated. And I think how I used to train was like, oh, don't let them go backwards and all that sort of stuff, and then you end up with this, you know, vicious circle because the dog then, or the horse then hits panic button, and it all goes downhill very rapidly, and it has done nothing for developing that the confidence.
It's dangerous as well, like, especially working with a big animal. That's something you want to avoid as much as possible. Choice is empowering.
Very much so. Very much so, empowering.
And that's getting back to them being sentient beings with wants and needs and emotions. I mean, you imagine going to school and being quashed all the time for saying something. You want to be uplifted and
well,
I
think a lot of us, I don't know about when you went to school, but I mean, you guys hear me harp on about this a fair bit. I always, you know, digression number 2.
You're getting there. Bruce, there's a
know,
car. Oh, that's a neighbour. Sorry.
About people's learning experiences, you know, how they learnt in school and how that affects how it is that they handle a dog, how it is that either they do or don't ask us for help and advice,
especially in a class situation.
Especially in a class situation, you know, and I am living proof of that, you know. For me, being in school, I was the square peg trying to be hammered into the round hole of, you know, conforming, and that just did not go down well for me.
Didn't go down well for me either, especially when they tried to tell me that I was going to do home economics and I was going to learn how to sew, and I was like, but I want to go into the woodwork and the metalwork, and they went, no, you're female, and
this is what you do.
I spent my time in the principal's office until they let me do metalwork and woodwork.
So doesn't surprise me. So anyway, we were talking about, what if we talk about LIMA or your
you have something there that you're going to read out. MP
maximum
MI?
Maximally Positive Least Intrusive.
Oh, least intrusive.
You can't really turn, I was trying to turn it into
Is it an anagram or an abbreviation?
Acronym.
That's where I went to school, hey?
But I guess that's...
Go on, Simone, please. Please take
Well, for me, one of the reasons why I actually normally say that it's LIMA, although it's not very common. When I'm talking to a general person, I'll say positive reinforcement because that's what they know. But to be really honest, it actually is the LIMA, because the first things, well, quite often what I'm actually looking at is, okay, looking at the underlying health and nutrition and the welfare of the dog, and can we make some changes in that space? Is that going to then lead to a change in the behaviour, or changing the environment around you? Like if a dog is practising a behaviour that we don't actually want, is there something we can do to change the environment so the dog doesn't feel the need to practice that undesired behaviour? And we haven't even done any training then. That's all just managing the environment and you know, making sure that the dog is...
But that's most of what training should be anyway, surely. Like you change it, you're never really changing behaviour, you're changing something around the dog or something internally inside the dog to get a different behaviour.
I did that as my first attempt, but you can change the emotional response to an object.
True, okay.
Well, we do that in our confidence building work all the time, don't we?
Associative learning,
So there's a lot before actually just doing the positive reinforcement training, and then you know, to a certain extent, even when you're doing positive reinforcement training, there's times, that inevitable times, where even though we may not actually want to be into that space, or sometimes that negative reinforcement is actually coming into it as well. And I'm thinking like if for some reason, like, you know, you needed to pick up a puppy to put it onto the veterinary table or something like that, and that puppy is struggling a little bit, you know, I do and still advise people just to hold on for a moment until the puppy eases off slightly and relaxes, and that lets them go. But from a puppy's perspective, that was aversive. That was something they didn't want. And for me, then releasing them when I got something I want.
So we're going into quadrants now, aren't we? Because I would have taken that as more as a negative punishment, because you're taking away from the dog the freedom.
But you already took that away earlier, but it wasn't when they were struggling.
Okay,
But it's weird. The quadrants don't go down that hole.
Can we not go to quadrants? That could be another video.
No.
It's operant learning.
It's a rabbit hole.
But you're not using one form. And that's where we're talking, and that's why I'm so big on it. I'm not just a positive reinforcement trainer, because it's so impossible to use just one part of the quadrant. And then even to just use positive reinforcement, taking into account that there is actually operant learning that's going on. I mean, what is that? What's the other one? Classical conditioning is all that's going on, which you have to take into account. Sorry.
So many variables.
It's too many. There's so many. So I don't know. I just get bunked up in the terminology.
Yeah, and I think maybe with this podcast, one of the things that we endeavour to do is not get bogged down by the terminology of dog trainers.
No, because that's not what we're here to do.
No, that's right. So don't worry, you won't hear us talk about the dogs again.
Did we digress?
No, we won't. But I will just add on to, once I become aware that the puppy actually has a restraint problem or something like that, then we can work on it in a very nice, positive
conditioning
way. That's not, So it's just, you got yourself in that situation.
That's it. You find yourself in a situation, you have to deal with it then and there, and that's like...
And just got to be mindful about what's the puppy learning.
Exactly, yeah. Because every experience is learning.
What's interesting in all of this is the only part of the equation that we're actually talking about here is the dog.
Yes.
We're not actually talking about the human, because when I think about, least intrusive, minimally aversive, one of the things that I used to do quite a lot, you go out to a client's home, you've got to think about the person who's coping with the dog, who's handling it, what their learning style is like as well, what their experience is as well, and you have to adapt. And I remember a really, really early consult that I went to, many moons ago, I tried to teach. It was simple. We just needed to get out the front door quietly and calmly. So we needed to put on the lead and the collar, quietly and calmly get to the front door. Now, this was something that I could do, and I could get the dog to do it, but I was unable to get the client to replicate it. They were just unable to. So I had to find a way to be able to break it down. And the way that I chose to do that was that if this pen is the dog's collar, and if I go to pick it up and the dog gets really, really super excited, then I'm just going to put it back down, and I'm going to wait until the dog is actually calm. And then I'm going to reach my hand. Technically, it's not, is it?
It's not positive reinforcement.
No. Am I punishing the dog? Well,
you're making
you
your behaviour.
Could say so.
What is punishment is making the behaviour less likely to occur again, essentially. So yeah, I guess you are.
Yeah.
You're also in a way you're reinforcing if the dog wants the collar, because you're reinforcing the sit as well, and the calmness.
That we get to that trial and error learning, don't we?
Yeah.
Depends on which way.
Because sometimes the dog will have to fail to learn that that didn't give me the results that I wanted as well.
Yeah.
Which is a big part of learning.
Well, absolutely. You've got to work what learns, and I think if having the collar and then the dog gets wormy, squirmy and excited, and I put the collar down and I just wait. And when the dog is calm, and then you can offer a treat, so you're bringing in that element of positive reinforcement as well, and say, yes, that is the behaviour that I want you to offer. At the end of the day, that is a hell of a lot nicer than, if I want to, yell at the dog, tell the dog no, and all that sort of stuff. And even if I want to do the, let's dare say it, the to the dog,
right in the neck.
or punish, physically punish the dog. And sometimes we've got to change things to be able to work with the person that is in front of us and what they're able to be able to achieve. So that's sort of an example in which I would not necessarily use positive reinforcement.
Yeah, that was a good example, I think.
So anything else to add to...
We could go... This is a big rabbit hole. I feel like this is a big topic. Like, I want to go more in depth in it.
It's technical.
It is technical, but it just gives you perspective. And talking about positive reinforcement all the time, well, we might be trying to do positive reinforcement to the dog. The dog doesn't always necessarily see it as that either.
It's always from the dog's perspective.
It's always the dog's perspective, which not a lot of people take into account. Like, well, I gave the dog a treat. Well, sometimes the dog doesn't actually want the treat. It wants to go and sniff that bush. So you want to look at always asking, what does that dog really want? And use that as positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Am I out of
You're just losing.
I get really excited and move back.
Yeah.
It's all the force coming out of my mouth.
That's part of it, looking at as well as that function of the behaviour and what's the dog trying to achieve, and can you use that as a reward for an alternative behaviour so the dog still gets what it wants, just in a more something that a human society deems to be more appropriate.
Yeah, which is going back to the dog is a sentient being. The dog has wants and needs, and let's appreciate that and
learn what those are.
What is it? Yeah, some dogs actually don't, and I see it's such a struggle, and I honestly, admittedly, really struggle sometimes when a dog doesn't want to work for food. I'm like, what do I do now? Like, what do you want? What am I gonna get you to work for? And it's such a cool thing to do, actually.
Finding that something else.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've been working with some dogs before, and it's been, you like water? Okay, we're going to use water, and use the water bowl as that reinforcement, or a feather, or
some dogs just
me
want
being
to
silly,
move forward, or be silly, or eye contact, or touching, or
whatever the dog likes.
Don't like touching, but I'm noticing more and more that dogs just like, get away from me, don't touch me. I'm like, okay, that's not what you like, that's fine. Which is the other one as well. People are like, well, I patted the dog. Well, like, your dog hates that, so you actually punished your dog. So, think about
And
it.
people are so quick to want to move off that food rewarding and, you know, to just say, well, good dog, or to touch them and give them a pat and, you know, or to grab a toy that they think their dog might like, but the dog doesn't like the pat, doesn't care about verbal praise, doesn't really like the toy that you picked for it either.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel like you're going to work and someone would be like, oh, I'm not paying you money today, I bought you a box of apples. I'd be like, great, I don't like apples.
Apples don't pay the bills.
They don't pay my mortgage. So what am I supposed to do now? It's all about the learner, for the relationship between the learner and the teacher. So.
Yeah, very interesting. So,
LIMA, what was the other term that you used?
Maximally positive.
Maximally positive.
Least intrusive.
Least intrusive. I do prefer that one, I think.
Yeah, because one of the criticisms of LIMA has been that that's permitting punishment, which is not the intent of LIMA.
No.
But it's been used by some people as a justification for using punishment. Whereas it's mainly, I've heard it mainly from the people that do the zoo animal training, where they're saying maximally positive, least intrusive. So it's really clear that the focus is on positive reinforcement.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
that's about it. I think we're done.
18
for the
minutes.
moment.
And not too many tangents.
And do you know what?
What?
No one swore.
Do we not? Fuck off. No.
Okay.
We love you all so much.
Thank God for editing.
Oh, don't edit that out. It's a colloquialism. We need that.
So, any
We're
questions? Any thoughts? Yes, we are. Pretty obvious, isn't it? Any questions? Any thoughts?
Call us.
No,
Mail
don't
us.
call us.
Don't call us. Just email us.
Put a message down.
Message us.
Have a chat.
Like
have a talk.
this video.
There's lots of things to chat about.
Share the video.
As always, if you are commenting on something, keep it nice, keep it respectful.
Be nice, guys.
There's no need to be.
Be LIMA.
Otherwise.
Be LIMA. What was your one?
No. Maximally positive.
Minimally.
Least intrusive.
We'll get there one day. We'll have to
We're
put
all
a post-it
learning.
note on the wall.
It's written down. So what
We
are
don't
we?
hang around in the zoo people too
you know.
much.
And what are we?
We're ask.
We're ask.
Ask.
Ask. Or
Ask us anything.
I know, I'm a bit iffy
We're
about
asked.
that.
It depends on where
no.
you're from. You could
Okay,
be us.
so help us out here, guys. So
Vote.
it's Ashley, Colleen, and Simone. So we were trying to come up with a bit of an acronym.
Does that look like an A?
You know, to yes, it looks like an
I'm
A.
the A.
Just don't
It's like
do it.
YMCA. Oh, yeah,
So we were coming up with like CAS, SAC, SCAR, AX, and ASK.
I like sack, personally.
No, we're not doing SAC.
Like
So
a sack of treats.
can you come up with something for us if you can think of anything outside of that realm that uses our initials of Ashley, Colleen, and Simone, ACS? Not to be confused with ATA and ATS and
APDT,
Oh my gosh.
IAABC, PBG.
Oh, okay. Simone's
I
gone
don't
a
know.
step further. I just picked out first initials.
That's jig and trig stuff, like geometry and trigonometry.
And Simone's
God.
just written down
Science of 10.
COSIAS. Put that all together.
Oh, that's CO.
COSI.
Isn't that cobalt and silicon and AS? You can make mine
Cosy
AG.
AG.
AG. I'm
For
gold.
silver. Gold.
AU is gold.
AU.
AG silver.
I did chemistry too. I can't
AG
remember.
silver.
AG. So AG.
AG is silver.
But I'm like, I like gold, but white gold better.
I'll remember that.
Don't
Okay,
forget.
so maybe think of the next initials as well. So it's Ashley, Colleen, and Simone. So COSI and AS, maybe. Anything more than that's probably going to be too long.
My initials together is Apple.
Apple. Didn't Gwyneth Paltrow and
Yeah, she did. She took my name.
Yeah,
She did.
okay,
I
she
tried to
took your
copyright it before the birth, but it didn't happen.
No.
A sicko.
That's a go. No.
We are a sicko.
Yeah.
And together we are.
Hopefully you guys might be able to come up with something better than what we can.
Please.
For us and for what we do. Other than we are, as always, the voice for your
dog.
Hey,
We
got
did
it.
really good with that. Can we fist pump on that? Yes.